pjnet.tv. It is 9:01. Oh, we're late. This is Monday night, and this is first time guest number 271 standing by in our green room. And we got a lot to go over, so let's count it down to Studio 33 Alpha, starting now. Well, good evening. Welcome. This is pjnet.tv. I'm Coach Prasic, and tonight at this time we welcome first-time guest number 271. That's a lot of people that have come across on the big screen, and I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Eric Elder from his study in the Indiana. Is it, Eric?
Illinois, a couple
Illinois,
hours south of Chicago.
Yeah, somewhere up there. Eric,
Great Midwest. Here we are.
I was going to read your introduction, but we only have 20 minutes. Author, speaker, musician, technology expert. In USA Today, back in the year 2000, they described you as not just a webmaster, but a webcaster, and in fact a web pastor. And Eric, why don't we save some time and talk about what the things you don't do? With that, we've only got 20 minutes.
Sure.
Take us back.
Yeah. There's a lot I don't do.
Take us back to 2000, when you apparently caught a vision about the same time I did, as the internet being a mission field.
Yeah. I was working for a large corporation, Texaco. They were the third largest company in America at the time, on the Fortune 500, and I was in their technology group and working on computers, advanced technology, any kind of new technology. That was my job, and I saw this internet thing coming, and I created Texaco's first website, encoding the HTML and putting the domain name out there. And my manager, she got a call from one of the VPs of Texaco up in New York, and she said, "Why is a VP of public relations calling about your project, Eric?" And I said, "Well, the internet's going to be a big thing." And she was like, "Well, if it's such a good thing, why isn't everybody doing it? Why aren't the other oil companies doing it?" I said, "Well, that's why you hired me, was to look at advanced coming technologies that were going to impact the company." And I said, "It's going to be everywhere." And it seems silly to even talk about it now, because people just go, "Well, it was obvious, Eric," but it wasn't even to my own manager in the advanced technology group at the third largest company in America. So that's what it was like back in '95, and I had written a paper about the internet that was distributed widely in our company, and some people just really took issue with it, disagreed with me, didn't think it was worth investing any money in. There were some people that thought it was the greatest idea. It just wasn't an obvious thing. It's like Bitcoin. I just was reading about them, and the creator gave $100 of Bitcoin to everybody at his college if they wanted to. They could use it and create an account. And some people did, and they spent it on sushi, and some people saved it, and now they're doing really well with their Bitcoins that they save. But you just never know what ideas are going to take off and what aren't. But I knew, I could tell from seeing into the future and working with technology for 10 years. I could tell what was happening, and it's not like I was anything special to see it. But I did quit my job, and I was just 2 months away from presenting this project, the website, to our president and all of his VPs. And I was on a plane, and I called my wife from the phone on the plane. They had phones on the plane that I could use then, and I said, "God just spoke to me, and he just told me to give that project to Doug." And I said, "What would I do?" God said he wanted me to quit tomorrow and work full-time for him. And she said, "Don't worry about me, don't worry about the money. If that's what God says, you do it." And we had $1,500 in the bank and 3 kids at home, and my wife was typically a little more worried about the money. But when she said that, I said, "Okay, I'll do that." And I couldn't quite do it the next day. I didn't quite have the faith to do it, but 2 days later I did. And I walked in, turned in my badge, and said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next, but I feel God's called me to do something. And on the way out, an Asian guy who was in our artificial intelligence department, he was very, very heady and just very intelligent, and he stopped me in the elevator lobby. He said, what are you doing? Why are you quitting? Why are you quitting now? And I wasn't going to make a big deal of it. I was just trying to get through the day. And he just kept pressing me. And I said, well, I just felt like God said to quit yesterday, and I just didn't do it, and I've got to do it today. And he said, Eric, if God told you to do it, you've got to do it. And he started crying, and he had been an atheist from everything he had ever told me in my years of working with him. And he said, I've just become a Christian. And he said, what you need to do is get online, get on CompuServe or AOL, and I'll pay for your account, and you start telling people about Jesus. And he said, there's people like me out there who have questions, and you've got answers, and I want you to answer their questions, and just get online and do that. He'd gotten his girlfriend pregnant. She went to First Baptist in Houston, and so he said, I started going with her. I became a Christian, and when my baby's going to be born, I'm going to be baptized with my baby. And he's just crying and bawling. The elevator door opens, and I get in, and I walk out of the building, and I'm just shaking my head going, how am I going to let this, what I thought was an atheist, tell me what I'm supposed to do next? I had no idea. But after a few months of being at home, and I said, I don't know exactly what I should do. I don't know if I should go to seminary. I don't know, but I do know how to create a website. And so I'll just use my gifts that I have, and I'll create a website. And I posted my testimony on there, how God had changed my life. And people started writing to me from Saudi Arabia and Germany and Washington State, and asking if I would pray for them, and saying, wow, if you could share that, I can share this. And back then you didn't even know if they were really, it's like you'd have to look at their extension of their domain, and it was like .gr from Greece. And I was like, this guy's from Athens. He really is from Athens. And he's writing me to ask for prayer. He found my website. And it was just unbelievable at the time that, suddenly I was, having 800 people a month, and just coming and asking questions and watching my, we did rudimentary videos, little size of the postage stamp. And anyway, it might be boring to people, but it was sort of what happened at the beginning, and just trying to say, okay, God, if this is what you really want me to do, I'll keep going. And that's been over 25 years ago now, so we just keep going. But now, as I was talking to you before, Mark, I just feel like we're sort of swallowed up in this whole internet thing, because it's obviously taken over the world. Any 13-year-old can do their own YouTube channel and have millions of views, and yet the idea that we have this new roadway, this new pathway to reach anywhere in the world and share the best message of all in Jesus Christ, it's still just amazing to me. And I can reach way more people from here in my little central Illinois. I'm in the middle of cornfields and soybeans, and yet I'm able to reach a lot of people all around the world every day. And so that's sort of the backstory and how I got into this. But my encouragement for people is to just look at their gifts and look at God's plan, and then use their gifts to fulfill God's plan. It's really that simple. If you love swimming, a lady I know that loved swimming and had a pool in her backyard, and some neighborhood kids wanted lessons, and she said, well, I'll give you lessons if you memorize a scripture verse every time you come over. And soon she had 10 and 20, and then she had to move the lessons to the local school, and she had 200 or 300 kids coming every week to her scripture memory swimming lesson club. And whether you love swimming or running or technology or whatever your gift is, and you might not even think it's a gift, God can use you. He can use that and to just reach people for Christ. So that's my encouragement to people, just from my own stories. I didn't know what to do, but I did know how to create a website. I did know technology, and so I used what I knew and said, Jesus, you can take it wherever you want.
What's amazing, Eric, is back when you took that enormous leap of faith, just walked away from a job at one of the largest companies in the world. Things were a lot harder back then. Doing the things you're talking about were reserved for the geeks, the programmers and such. But today, as you said, a 13-year-old can start a YouTube channel.
Yeah. I mean, there was no Google back then. There was no Yahoo. There was no no Hotmail, no Facebook,
There was an
YouTube,
AOL disk at
nothing.
every checkout counter you went to. You could
That's
install
it. That's
AOL.
it.
On it.
It was work. It definitely was work. It's still work today, but it's a different kind of work.
Well, but the amazing thing is the cost. I mean, to think I have a radio background. Well, radio stations are millions of dollars. Television stations are even, more than that. And radio audiences today, as their terrestrial base, is a fraction of their internet-based audience. It's almost like, why do you bother putting up a tower and buying transmitters and all that? The vast majority of the audience is out there. You can do it on a dime. And I think that what you saw way back then is a lot what I saw.
It sounds like it. Your background sounds very similar. And
we've been on some
some
parallels paths. I saw the opportunity, but it took the technology a while to catch up. I've struggled, as you have, working video into a dial-up bandwidth venue. Postage stamp, that's about the optimum size, and not everybody had a webcam. Remember them? That was a big deal to have a webcam, and then have the struggles. But today, the things that we take for granted, and it's worse than that. We take it for granted, but we don't as Christians. I still am burdened that the church body, the worldwide church, has been reluctant to pick up these tools and use them in ministry.
I think I'm still. I think for Christians particularly, I would just encourage people to just be as winsome as possible. I think we can get on social media and everybody has a voice. We can all say whatever we want, but if we're not listening to each other, if we're not actually engaging, actually caring about people in a way that they receive it. I mean, we can say we love you and talk trash about politicians or whatever else, but it's just not received well. And I think everyone now has a much better way to use their voice if we can just do it in a winsome way. So I think right now the big thing for Christians, for me, is let's find a way to be winsome about what we do, engaging about what we do, and what motivates our hearts. And I know we might talk about this later, but I've written a book about Saint Nicholas, the real Saint Nicholas, back in the 3rd century. My wife knew about him from her religious background, but I didn't really know much about him from my upbringing. And he was a real man of faith, and he used his faith to influence so many people that he's now known as Santa Claus and this great gift giver and lover of children. But his real story was he was just a guy living in the Mediterranean in the 3rd century, and he lost his parents in a plague. It wiped out half the city where he was, and most of that region lost people. And he was a young child, and he had a choice to get bitter or make the world better. And he chose to make the world better. He attended the Nicene Council. He helped the Nicene Creed be formed, that Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit are one. That whole idea of the Trinity was, sort of formalized and fully accepted at that point. And so he just was a guy living in the 3rd century, and now he's known around the world, and so I wrote this book with my wife about him, just to say, here's an everyday believer who had one life to live, but he knew if he lived it right, one life was all he would need. And we're all in the same boat. We all, now we're in a new century and a new millennium, and we still have our own gifts. We just have one life to live. But if we live it right, if we live it for God, God can use it all over the world. And, I don't know what St. Nicholas would have done if he had the internet, or St. Paul, or any of those early guys. But we have such an opportunity. I think that there also comes a great responsibility with that too, and to use and to nurture that gift that we've been given to reach the world.
Eric, you are quite the techno junkie, as am I. And for years, in fact decades, as a computer programmer, I considered myself very logical, with two left brains and absolutely no creativity.
Hmm.
Later, I discovered that I have two halves of my brain, a left and a right, and I have discovered some of that creativity that God put in me. But you were the geek. Did you think of yourself as creative because you've transitioned into music, theater? You're an author. These are not logical endeavors. These are creative endeavors. Was there a transition, or was it always there?
That's a great question. I Are you an Enneagram guy at all, or know these numbers?
No.
It's like a personality type
Understood.
thing. Anyway, I'm a number 4, which is a creative type of person. But honestly, I was very creative as a child, and middle school and high school. Went to college, wanted to go into theater, but I didn't have a foreign language, so I got put in the business school, and so I got a degree in business and management information systems and computers. And then I became a Christian, and a lot of the creative arts people that I worked with, I had to, for my sake, I had to distance myself from them because of their influence on me. And I was falling into things. So I really went into the business side and my non-creative side for another decade and beyond. So I spent a lot of years just doing business type things. Very, Texaco, writing reports, doing presentations, doing things. But it actually wasn't until the last 5 or 10 years that I've jumped back into some of my more creative passions and talents, and I am just having a ball doing it. It's like, wow, I've sort of suppressed this side of me because it was sort of on the artsy, flaky.
Right.
You could put, if you put it in negative terms on artsy people, that's what I did not want. And yet, I have found a great way to reach people through the arts. And so, yeah, I write music now, and I wrote a musical about the St. Nicholas. We staged it up in Streator, Illinois last Christmas. And it just was a lot of fun just to work with 100 people and direct them and get them all to act and sing. It was like working with marionettes. You just sort of move the people around the stage and get them to tell this story about the St. Nicholas who loved Jesus. And it was a fun way to share the gospel with people. And you use a lot of, I felt like I was hitting on all cylinders. So sort of like I started that way, pushed it all down, and then now I'm back to using it and saying this is actually good. I thought playing the piano was sort of a sissy thing to do, but I've played all my life. But then I read, King David played the harp. I mean, come on, this is like okay, the guy played a harp. Who these days would play a harp and get away with it? And that's still cool. He had both going on, and I thought, wow, I missed all this in the Bible, that you could be creative and love arts and music. And this is just my own. I could lay down and do like a psychologist counseling session with you, but you understand the idea. Is just I had a wrong perception of some of my own gifts. And so I've had to rediscover it and say, this is good and God-given, and I want to use it to the fullest.
Eric, I'm going to have to accelerate. We may not get to your book because there's something I do want to get to, and we've only got a couple of minutes left.
Sure.
You are the curator, the progenitor of a website called theranch.org. So I went on Google Maps to discover the location of where this ranch is and couldn't.
Good. It's virtual. It's always been virtual. When I created my first website for ministry, I thought it would be great to create a virtual retreat center, because I have family camps, and retreats always help me get closer to God. So I created something that people could attend anywhere in the world. They could come listen to music, read a story, listen to a message, be encouraged in their faith, get away for a few moments. And so that's what the ranch is. It's sort of a place to seek God and find him. Theranch.org.
And when did that launch?
Probably bought that name in 97, I
Mm.
think 1997. So, yeah.
All right. Well, folks, we're out of time, but trust me, Eric has written many books. One of them is featured Living Life with a capital L. Um, Eric, we're out of time. Where can people go find out about
Great.
your books?
Sure, just go to theranch.org and there's a bookstore button. You can just click and it'll take you to all my books, descriptions. You can order them. You can read them online even. So I make it easy. They're devotionals, there's historical fiction, there's my own testimony book. So, yeah, a number of things just to encourage you in your faith.
It's a pretty rich website.
Thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate it.
I wish we had more time, Eric. Maybe we can come back and catch up. But it's good to meet a techno junkie that, what is it, a technologist for the kingdom. What a story. What a story. I feel like we're brothers by a different mother, but thanks for your effort and your faith and your initiatives, and may God bless you and your ministry, and we appreciate you sharing with us tonight.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Eric Elder here on pjnet.tv. We are only getting started. Yes, in just a few moments at the bottom of the hour, Casper Stockham will join us right here. And until then, I've got to tool everything up, change everything around. So while I'm doing that, I would ask that you do this. Ask yourself 2 questions. You ready? Here's the first one. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for the kingdom of Christ? Now, it doesn't have to be walk out of a Fortune 500 company. But then the second question is this. How long ago was that? And the challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.